stop, and landing 13 left if that's available.
Papa Hotel Tango, India Link, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Papa Hotel Tango, India Link, Palm Springs altimeters 2985, radar contact, about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
That's available.
Ever departure of Papa Hotel Tango, India Link, make straight in runway 13 left, and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango, India Link, thanks.
Palm Springs, clearance, plus 4658 is type PC final slam call, request clearance to Vegas S file.
Lotus 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon. Unable to give you S file, and I'll be full route standby. Lotus 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas airport. VFI Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresso. Join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7,000. Check flight level 2405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7. Swap 6316.
Plus 4658 is cleared to Vegas via Cathedral 1, Palm Springs, Victor 37029, Palms, Victor 538, Cresso 3. Initially climb 7 plus expected cruiser after 5, departure 1667, flight 606 plus 465.
Plus 4658, 3 back is correct. Tango India Link, connect to the ground via Echo and frequency.
Fixing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Hotel Tango, India Link.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 237, Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left, traffic, left downwind, runway 26, left report base.
Enter left downwind for 26 left and report your base, 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie Tower, United 242, on the visual for 20 right, returning for right base starting.
United 242, John Wayne Tower, runway 20 right, clear to land, wind 170.3.
Clear to land, 20 right to land.
Otherwise, now looking at a 208 kilo IFR.
Here 520 Yankee Kilo, Palomar Tower, runway 24, clear to land, wind 210 at 1. Number 237, Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
So left clear to land, 7 Charlie Alpha.
Palm Springs round plus 4658 east ramp with weather going for taxi.
Lotus 4658, Palm Springs ground, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Trail right via Echo Bravo 465.
Riverside Tower, good morning, November 2903 Alpha with you on the ILS.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside Tower, good afternoon. Runway 900 clear low approach, report miss.
November 2903 Alpha, low approach, runway 9, next to north.
Palm Springs Tower plus 4658 ready to go trail right at Bravo.
And it was the radio area check.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs Tower, runway 31 right, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff trail right plus 465.
Here's our Yankee Kilo, Roger, taxi into the ramp via Alpha. Lotus 4658, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure 465.
Cessna 7 Charlie Alpha is clearly active, taxi to the GA parking base.
Push 7 Charlie Alpha, and on this frequency, taxi into the south ramp via Sierra.
South ramp via Sierra with you, 7 Charlie Alpha, thanks.
November 2903 Alpha going around.
Number 03 Alpha, confirm going around or going missed?
November 2903 Alpha going missing.
Number 03 Alpha, roger, execute the published missed approach procedure.
Flying published mid-approach procedure, November 2903.
Piper 2903 Alpha, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure, 03 Alpha.
Number 03 Alpha, departure frequency 135.4.
135.4 for departure, November 2903.
Ontario Tower, November 516 Delta Mike, inbound ILS 26 left. Or 516 Delta Mike, Ontario Tower. Good afternoon, Ontario. Wind is calm. Runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 6 Delta Mike. Ontario Tower, November 36. Correction, 516 Delta Mike, clear to be active at uniform, taxiing to the south apron.
Number 6 Delta Mike, roger, taxi in the south ramp via Sierra. Remain on this frequency.
This year on this frequency, 6 Delta.
Riverside Tower,
tower runway 27, clear to land.
Clear to land over 2703 Alpha. Riverside route November 2903 Alpha. In Alpha request taxi to the transient parking.
Number 2903 Alpha Riverside ground. In the future, don't switch to the ground frequency unless you're told to do so. Should stay with tower, exiting the runway all the way to the whole short point. Stay on this frequency for now, taxi into the ramp via Alpha.
Taxi to the ramp via Alpha. Broadband. November 2903 Alpha.
Runway clear. Runway clearance. November 6th. Charlie Mike Cherokee. I would like to attempt the I-4 range then.
Cherry 76 Charlie Mike John clearance. Good evening. Good luck on the I-4 destination. Will be, let's go, Kilo, Oscar X-ray, Romeo.
That's Kilo Oscar X-ray Romeo. 620 Mike.
Yes, sir. Good luck.
I'm going to sign off and collect some information for this destination. I'll sign back in. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Just report when you're back with the I-4. And how long do you think it'll be? It's not going to be more than an hour, is it?
No. I have to file and get some charts and plates.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll still be here, so it shouldn't be a problem. And we'll look for your flight plan to come through. Which reminds us.
Las Vegas Tower Plus 4658 visual 1 hour right 4500.
Plus 4658 Las Vegas Tower, runway 19 right, clear to land, wind 1807.
Clear to land 1 hour right 465.
Plus 658 exit right, taxi into the ramp via hotel. Remain on this frequency today.
Exit right, right via hotel, right frequency 58
Ground number 95 for Whiskey Alpha's HIGHTLIGHTS, Comanche, TH4/Alpha. Taxi the active VFR East departure with weather.
Calling Long Beach Ground, need you to verify your call sign, please.
Sorry about that. 916 Whiskey Alpha, November 916 Whiskey Alpha.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Ground, roger. And just confirm VFR eastbound.
Eastbound and repeat east ramp just south of runway 25.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, roger, runway 26 right, taxi to Kilo.
Okay, 25 right, the Kilo, 916 Whiskey Alpha. Long Beach Tower, November 916 Whiskey Alpha, holding short of 25 right, Kilo, ready for departure via parking east.
We're 916 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Tower, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff, right down departure, approved.
Clear for takeoff 25 right, right down with departure 6 Whiskey Alpha. Good day, Palm Springs, ground spanning double tail tango. East wind, India, close traffic, 31 right.
Papa Hotel Tango tonight, Palm Springs ground, say again aircraft type.
Or a Cessna Sky.
Skyline Tango, any Mike, thank you, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Echo and Bravo, 31 right, Papa Hotel Tango.
We're 791 Juliet, towards ground left.
Okay, Sky 791 Juliet. We see there's no clearance delivery with this field, so would we get our departure instructions with tower or with ground?
Always go with the lowest, so we'll start with ground. Just say your intentions.
Okay, Sky 791 Juliet. Type Cessna 172 on the south angles with the numbers requesting VFR advisories to jump.
Number 791 Juliet, roger, departure frequency 134.9er, squawk 2061.
1249 is 2061.
Got 901 Juliet, read back is correct, are you ready to taxi now?
In a couple of minutes, just gotta go to the start. It's Sky 791 Juliet, south angles.
Sky 791 Juliet, roger, runway 29 right. Taxi via hotel, correction, taxi via Alpha in Juliet.
29 right taxi by Alpha and Juliet, Sky 791
Palm Springs Tower, spelling Papa Hotel Tango. Mike is holding short runway 31 right, Bravo, and ready for departure, close traffic.
What do you guys think of the new overlay? I think it looks awesome. Yeah, I just felt like revamping a little more of the uncertified pilot style. Perhaps I'm also going to do that with the in-flight overlay. I have looked at it, but it's still pretty good. So, well, gradually, I guess we can fix and optimize stuff. But I think it looks pretty awesome. Magic Dorm, love the overlay. Awesome to hear. Good to see you here. Digital, welcome as always. And Scrap and Heinrich. Good to see you guys. Thanks, Digital. Yeah. So what we are going to do today is continue our IFR training. Now, again, this is not that difficult and not that new. What I am planning to do is to fly actually my first instrument procedure, our first arrival. And this is the plate. One into Palm Springs, the Sabono 1 arrival. And as you can see already, it looks pretty much like our departure procedures. And it's obviously still based on the same principles, the same kind of visual depictions, the same kind of chart, the same kind of reasoning. So that's why I also reduce the number of training flights needed to prepare myself for my first actual IFR flight here on PilotEdge, because yeah, there might be some variations in charts, but to go through each and every variation is just too tedious and not really that relevant, to be honest. But I do like to have flown at least one SID and one arrival, even though also as a 172 pilot we will probably never be assigned a SID. For arrival I'm not quite sure. I think we will be using arrivals. So that's still some study that I need to be doing. So meanwhile I'm studying all of the King School's videos and a lot of other material to know how these charts actually work. So what I'm planning to do for today, we're currently at 29 Palms Airport, set my own weather. Again, I set visibility to 0.1 statute miles. It doesn't seem like it. So if anyone knows how to actually set proper non-visibility, I mean, you can also set an overcast, but I'd rather just work with visibility, but somehow that is not working, at least not on my end here. You can see that the visibility is not great, it's not unlimited, but yeah, it's a little bit confusing, a little bit frustrating, to be honest. Anyways, I set my own weather because what I'd like to do is, well, again, fly this particular arrival, but I'm gonna join in. If you look here, 29 Palms VOR. For those who are unfamiliar with 29 Palms, here we are again in the Palm Springs area. Here you can see 29 Palms, non-towered airport, and there's the big VOR, the VORTEC. So what I'm going to do is depart 29 Palms, get to that VORTEC to get myself, where are we, on top of this VOR as part of that arrival, and then go downwards to Palm Springs, and we can do some interesting stuff there. Hey MiniWebs, good to see you as well. For visibility to drop, bug, I think. Ah, roger that, Digital, thanks. It's a bit weird. Told you if the clouds doesn't matter. Alright. Great to see you flying again, Tim. Thanks. MiniWebs, great to see you again. Yeah, and man, also, that's also why I guess I changed the overlay again, just to reignite that same. I mean, that passion is still there to fly, obviously. But yeah, still, also based off of my earlier streams this week, also with a flight with Mrs. Uncertified, I just love flying. My gosh. I mean, obviously building that Skyhawk is also a pretty cool side project, but still primarily flying is my thing. I'm a pilot first. Anyways, so what I'm going to do with this arrival is we're going to depart 29 Palms, and then we're going to fly towards that, we're going to hit that, capture that 29 Palms VOR and then go down. As you can see, this arrival also has a holding pattern. Holding pattern practice is also relevant. For a 172, I guess not, but for our own intellectual study it is. So let's do one holding pattern again. Thanks, Nuber, for the follow. Welcome on the stream. Happy Saturday. But this time around, we don't have a vortex that the holding pattern is assigned to or stuck upon. This is an intersection, as you can see. So we're flying an intersection-based holding pattern, so that's new. And additionally to that, I've also set a significant crosswind component, a significant crosswind of about 20 knots in the direction of that first inbound leg, so 200 degrees, so from the 29 Palms vortex towards that intersection called Cloud, we have a strong crosswind, so that once we are entered in that holding pattern, we got a a crosswind going, and we need to correct for that. That's also quite relevant practice. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to do a few patterns there to see if I'm able to do so, flying on that proper holding pattern. Also some theory on that. Also, I've updated my holding pattern 8 PDF on the UncertifiedPilot.com blog because while I was listening to the King School's videos, I noticed, and I already knew that, that by default a holding pattern is always right-handed, but you can also be assigned a left-handed holding pattern, but that is then assigned explicitly by the controller. Now, in that case, my little scheme, my little trick that I described on that PDF doesn't work, and it needs to be mirrored. That strategy for very quickly knowing how to enter a holding pattern. So I've added a third page on the PDF. So if you are studying or working with that PDF, re-download it because it has been updated to 1.1 version. Anyways, now with crosswinds, it's interesting. So again, we got a fix here. This would be the no, that's not. Well, for crosswinds, it doesn't really matter. So right hand holding patterns. Now, what will happen when we are flying in a crosswind, especially that crosswind that I've set? Well, what will happen is that when the wind is coming from this direction, so that's the 200 degrees, we are going, as soon as we're going to hit that that intersection, we're going to make that turn, standard rate turn, but we're going to get pushed downwards, right? So that's going to shorten our turn. But then if we don't grab into the wind, we're going to be pushed downwards. But also then when we're going to make that right turn, that turn is going to be extended in terms of our ground track because we're getting pushed along on our tail. And so you're going to get something like this if you don't correct for it. And with all holding patterns, the primary aim or requirement is to always stay on the safe side, this side of the holding pattern. So actually the controllers don't mind that much if you're exactly on track here, as long as you're on this side. So usually here's terrain or other kinds of weird stuff that we shouldn't get to. Franchise World, hey Tim, Real World Pilot here. I haven't flown GA in 18 years, been watching your videos and you have inspired me to get back into GA flying. That's wonderful to hear, Franchise. Just wanted to thank you for reminding how fun it can be. Keep up the good work. Thanks. I mean, that fuels my passion as well. Thank you for sharing, Franchise, and welcome. Happy Saturday. So, particularly with crosswinds, in this case, this is not good. So what do you do? Well, the King Schools, Martha and John say, again, intersection, right hand, is once we're flying, and I don't let me get that chart. Yeah, so that makes it a little bit difficult. Which is usually the case, I guess, with holding patterns as part of an arrival, as part of a procedure. Usually, I don't even know if it's usually, but what I've been studying so far is that you come into the inbound leg of that particular fix to fly that particular heading pattern. And so when you're flying on this leg, so the first few nautical miles inbound to that fix, you should be already crabbed, right? To stay on that particular track, 5 degrees, 6 degrees, and well, if the wind is coming from that direction, we would be crabbed a little bit into this direction, right? And so we know how many degrees we are off. And what you then do is once you turn that right turn here, and we're going to go that direction, you're going to add. You're going to multiply that degree, that deviation of degrees, times 2. So if this would be 5 degrees, crabbed 5 degrees into the wind to stay on that first initial inbound track towards that fix, once we make that right turn, we're going to fly about 10 degrees into the wind to the other side, into the wind again. Why? Why not just 5? Well, because once we're going to make that turn, that final turn, that right turn back onto that track, we're going to get pushed on our tail, right? So we need to also include or account for that additional push while we were making that final right turn back onto that track. And so our shape, therefore, if you're going to use this trick, which seems sensible to me, your track is going to be something like this. And you can see that's not the proper racetrack kind of track, but here you are facing to the wind, 5 degrees, whatever. You're going to make that 1 minute turn, but then once you're going to hit this direction, you are already crabbed 5%, well, additional 5 degrees. So your track is going to be a little bit like this, more like a key shape, keyhole kind of shape, so that when you make that final right turn, which is going to be an extended turn because you got the wind on your tail, you have enough room, enough time to then track and never get into this area because that's potentially dangerous obstacles and stuff. Always remain on the side where the holding pattern is at. So that's a little bit of theory. So that's what I'm going to do today. The only thing is that I notice right now, if you look at this arrival, we would hit that intersection right off and then immediately need to make our turn into that holding track. So I don't know what the crabbed angle would be. So that's a little bit difficult. But let's just adjust. Let's just have fun. I'm also on PilotEdge, and well, it's all CTEV now, so PilotEdge is not live. The controllers are not live, so we can fly on PilotEdge. It's not really matters that much for today's flight, but usually I always like to fly on PilotEdge. So let's just hit that intersection and try to fly holding patterns and see how we are doing. And also with our flight review, we can just see our flight track and have fun seeing whether I did a good job or not. So let's do a couple of holding patterns there, perhaps also do some other entries. And then once we did that, we're going to go to Palm Springs and land there. That's the idea for today. So we're combining multiple lessons. Flying an arrival, which is not that difficult, but mostly that holding pattern in crosswind and also based on an intersection, not a VOR. I think that's cool. Also, just for transparency's sake and also just for interesting, I'm not going to make it quite an elaborate pre-flight here, but it might be fun also to go through some initial symbols or stuff or information that we actually see here on the on this chart, because there's a lot of information. It's actually quite interesting. So first off, this is the Sabona 1 arrival. That 1 is there because there are versions to arrival, so this is the first version, it has not been changed. And what you see is that this arrival, actually the arrival itself is actually only that last little bit. It's actually from Sabona to Palm Springs arrival. All of this stuff are actually transitions from your en route part of your flight to catch on, well, to get yourself onto that Sabona 1 arrival. So if you look also at the bottom here, you can see that those are included as well. So you got the Blythe transition, you got the DCAS transition, and it still includes that Sabona, but it depends on what kind of feeder route, where you're coming from. You can come from Needles and then enter that that arrival, or from Goffs, or from, so that's interesting. And what's particularly interesting, also what I also like to work with, is ForeFlight, because ForeFlight has a really nice, dynamic, flexible flight planning feature where you can just graphically see on top of the charts what choices you have based on transitions and different arrivals. You can just hit those and it just compiles, it constructs your own flight very, very quickly, rather than for us just going through all of the different arrivals, all of the different plates, looking what transition might match our en route. ForeFlight can do this all automatically, which is really, really neat. So that's all stuff that we're going to do later. So that's a first. So the Sabona 1 arrival, first version, as you can say, as you can see. Then there's a lot of information, as you can see here as well. So here you got Goffs, that Vortec, that also interesting. If you see a channel description, so in this case channel 9.1, channel is actually for the military aircraft. That already tells you that this is a Vortec that has DME. You can also see it in the visual depiction because it has colored, well, hexamol, those colored black boxes there that also tell you that that it has DME. Also, note DME is required for this particular arrival, and I can show you why that is the case in just a second. So that's the VORTEC. Also there at the bottom, Lima 7 and Hotel 4 refer to the lower or high IFR chart. So you know in what section, what chart you need to grab to see that Gov's VORTEC on a en route chart. Interesting. Then you can see here MAA, that's the maximum authorized altitude. So there's also a ceiling here. We cannot fly any higher, at least as an IFR flight, because of other airways on top of us, the high altitude charts. Could be all kinds of reasons there. Then the next altitude at 15,000 is the MAA. So that's the en route minimum en route altitude. So that's the altitude where we know that we are safe from obstacles, but also we've got that we know that we have radio, that we can receive VORs, that we have good enough reception. Which is really, really important. That altitude beneath is just the obstacle clearance. That's the MOCA, I believe. So with that asterisk there. So once we're going to fly lower than 7,400, we're going to hit obstacles. Now, why is that altitude there? In case of lost communications. Because then we can fly our own little thing, which we should by our filed flight plan. But in any case, it's good for us as pilots to know how low we can go before we hit any obstacles. Not with every leg that that MOCA is displayed. Usually it's just the MAA, which also includes safety margins in terms of terrain. Well, then the 22 is the nautical miles. Obvious, I guess, that between brackets. Also interesting, you got those fixes here, which are not filled in black, so they are white in the middle, as you can see, which makes them it's not mandatory for us to report to ATC that we are crossing those fixes. So if they are totally black triangle, those are mandatory reporting points, and we should just say to the ATC, hey, here we are. And usually that's the case when ATC has no radar coverage for that particular fix, so they just need to know through communications that you are actually there. Very few of those fixes exist, but still, I thought that was interesting. Also, just to get a sense of the system of IFR flying. I mean, apparently this stuff works, and it's just interesting to, well, reverse engineer almost why these charts look the way they are and what information they provide us as pilots, rather than just having some practical knowledge how to fly this thing. Also have a more intellectual understanding of why it is there. I think that's really interesting. Yes, and again, it's also what's also important is you've got actual airways to fly, but you also have more thinner lines here, which are more reference lines. So, for example, this particular Zelma fix is reference to that outbound 257 radial from Needles. This is actually not a route to fly, it's just a reference line. It's hard to see, but that line is a little bit thinner than these lines, these black lines here that we are able to fly. Then also here, if we go a little bit more to the bottom to job new, you see that we again hit another fix. This little bubble here, that 51, is a total sum of the distance of legs between that fix and previous fixes. So that's 29 plus 22, as you can see there, of those two legs. So just handy dandy quick reference. That little Harry Potter lightning bolt says that this is not to scale. That usually should also be depicted on this, yeah, here. Note, chart, not to scale. So it looks a little bit more dangerous than it actually is. Not to scale, that's what it means. And this also tells you why we need DME, because you can see that this particular fix is not referenced according to any, well, it is actually. Well, it is. We can still fly that particular DME, I guess, based off of the Gov's VORTEC and the 29 Palms VORTEC by cross-referencing our VORs or our NAVs. Anyways, there should be a fix here that that requires us to use DME in order to fly it. So that's why this note is there, DME required. Mr. Mac, thank you for the follow. Welcome on the stream. Again, guys, it's also just a rehearsal for myself, just to go through what I've learned so far. Perhaps for some of you, this is already common knowledge. For me, it isn't, so that's why I'm going through these charts also just to archive it. And for those who are new to IFR flying, I think this is interesting. So again, we are going downwards. Again, maximum altitude, flight level 1903, same information there. 29 Palms also has a channel, so we got DME. We're going downwards, and we have that particular racetrack, the holding pattern that we're going to fly. Is there anything else that might be interesting here to talk about? Well, again, this is the visual depiction of our route. The most important one, and also the most, well, I don't know if it's the most informative one, but this route description, this textual description should always be there. And I think that's the one requirement. You should at least have this textual description of that particular transition or arrival that you're going to fly. This is just as an aid. So always read this stuff. It's more subtle, it's more detailed. Static, good to see you. And Honda, hello guys. Welcome. So yeah, that's about it. And then once we get to Palm Springs VOR, then we can, from that Palm Springs VOR, we can go to an instrument approach plate, and from there on get to our final routing towards that runway. But primarily for today, we're just going to fly from that 29 Palms vortex to that cloud intersection here and fly that holding pattern with crosswinds and see how I will do. And that cloud intersection again is reference based on all kinds of different stuff. That's the Jacqueline Cochran thermal VOR here. Also has DME, 20 nautical miles as you can see. 021 radial. And we've got the 29 Palms 199er radial. And so those are the two radials that we can use perhaps to tell when we are at cloud, especially also when we are flying that... no, that shouldn't be... No, that wouldn't work. No, so in order for us to fly that particular holding pattern, I mean, obviously we can use those two radials to reference cloud, but to fly the particular holding pattern, I would like to have a radial that's rightly on top on that first inbound leg here of that holding pattern, because then we know that we are actually on that holding, on that leg. So rather I use the Palm Springs, because this is also a fix, and yeah, that's not something that we can do. It might be even a more challenging holding pattern. I guess that these first legs here, or this radial here from Palm Springs, the 072 radial, would be the same as that 252 radial inverted. Is that true, guys? Is the inverse of 252, is that 072? Kill him! Yes, on 2523 of PilotEdge at DME hold. Yes, exactly. So you can see, yeah, so here you can see 18 plus 7, so that's the 25 nautical mile hold. Yeah. I think that's true, that we can fly that 072 radial outbound. So inbound is going to be 252, and then we can make those holding patterns. That's interesting. Could we also fly without that? So reference the 021 radial from thermal, and I mean we would know when we are flying over clouds, but I have no way to know whether I'm actually on that particular track. I have no reference to see if I'm off or still within that protected airspace of that holding, or airspace, that particular protected area of the holding pattern. So I think I need to use the Palm Springs radial here in order to fly that holding pattern. 252 inbound, sir. Roger. Thanks. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Enough chat there. So first, let's get up. We need to go to 29 Palms, and once I'm at 29 Palms at 8,000 feet, it doesn't really matter 8,000. We can also fly a little bit lower in our case here, because we're just VFR and we're just practicing. And then we're going to fly there and do that holding pattern. I'm really excited about this. Okay, so sip of water. Back into the cockpit. Wow. Yeah, I'm not that interested in a full pre-flight inspection. Let's pretend that it's already there. Perhaps sim coders will punish us for that fact, and we might run into all kinds of troubles. Again, I'm running the 3.3.1 version by SimCoders, and I found a nasty bug here where we cannot set the fuel tanks to both, and also the fuel gauge doesn't work. Still, the engine is able to run. So I guess I need to run the newest alpha. I'm also partnered with SimCoders, so I have access to the latest version. But just to have a heads up there. So my trim, yeah, there it is. Okay, so door closed. I believe we don't have any chocks and stuff outside. And pitot tube, yeah, good, no tie downs. Alrighty, parking brakes. Those are set, live vest, fire extinguisher, door is closed, windows are closed, ELT set to auto, flaps are up, at least the lever is up, and our flaps are also actually up. We'll make sure throttle thing works, my trim works, fuel tanks again skip, cutoff is in, alternate is in. This seems all good, 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 good. Only the switch of the beacon is on. Nice, and my switch panel is working as well. Wonderful. Batteries on. Again, fuel gauge is not working. A little bit of a bummer because now I don't know what. Well, we've got enough fuel. Good. Yes. Let's turn on our avionics. Ready mode CVFR. That's okay. Let's turn down our flaps. They go down. And they go down in sync. Very good. Lights and pitot tube and all of that stuff we're going to skip. Frequency is going to set later because once we switch off our avionics it's reset anyways. This is all good. Annunciator messages seem right. We can already set our altitudes here. Let me see. Airports, Palm Springs, no. Or we can also just go to the no away maps. 1888. 1888. Okay. Yeah, we are clearly off. We are currently reading 315. 315. Very good. Heading back we're all going to do later. Again, 11 degrees will be set. Fuel gauge doesn't work, we know, and all these circuit breakers are still in. Nice. Let's prime our engine. A little bit of a throttle in. Fuel tanks again. Fuel pump on. Mixture in. We see fuel flow. 2, 3, and off. Fuel pump off. Parking brakes are set. Everything is clear. Clear pop. Mixture full in. Love that new animation of the attitude indicator made by SimCoders there. Much more realistic. Love that. Oil pressure's in the green. Lean for ground. See a rise in the RPM about there. And then it drops so a little bit rich. Good. We set it to 1000. Allow the engine to warm up. Alternator on. Rise in the M meter. A slight one. Is it even in the positive? I can't even see. We're looking at it at an angle, but it should be a little bit more of a charge, I think. Anyways, those are on, yes. Let me see, avionics go on, my flaps go up, 1200 is good. We could set some frequencies. Whoop. What are we going to set? Hey Jim, good to see you. Happy Saturday. Yes, now obviously we're going to go back to those charts. What do we need? Well, we need 29 palms. 114.2. So nav 1, 114.2. We're not going to use thermal because we can reference cloud also by Palm Springs, and we're also going to need those Palm Springs for that inbound thing. Yeah, so that's 115.5. Let's set that to the nav 2, so we can read off what we're doing based off of 2 nav instruments, which is really, really handy dandy. Nav 2, 115.5. 115.5. Double check 114.2 and then F1 and 115.5. Yeah. That's set. Okay, now the radials. So 29 palms. Yeah, 200 degree outbound. Yes, we're gonna have a from reading once we are there. Okay, and then the Palm Springs, and that's going to be inbound 252 or the outbound 10072. I'd like it to have it at the inbound leg, so that's going to be 072. Something like this, and I think that would work. Yes, and this is also the only thing that I need to set, because as soon as we're flying those holding patterns, I know when I'm in this on this inbound leg, and as soon as I see the needle of the nav1 from 29 palms hit the middle, we know that we are actually on that fix. We could also read 25 nautical miles away from Palm Springs, as KLM was suggesting. Yes, and then we're gonna keep those turns with crosswind correction. Nice, good. That said, anything else? Well, we're not really chatting with anyone while we're here on 29 palms, obviously. 122.8 currently active, and let's also, yeah, everything is CTF at the moment at PilotEdge. Let's also set Palm Springs here on 190.7. 29 palms. Yes. Good. ADIS, don't really care. Custom weather. Everything is set. We're still in sync. The heading bug. Yeah, so again, according to my handy dandy holding pattern aid, I guess handy dandy is the word today. If you're curious again, hop over to UncertifiedPilot.com to grab your own free version of that holding pattern entry aid or PDF. I'm going to set this already to that inbound. What was it? 252. You can see there inbound leg 252. Why am I going that direction? Who cares? 252. Oh, something like this. Good. Okay, engine is already 75 degrees, so we're ready to taxi, and yeah, pretty cool. We don't want to hit the fence there with our wings, but I think that's okay. What runway are we going to depart? I think we currently have winds calm. Looking at the windsock. Yes, so it doesn't really matter that much. I think we do have some AI traffic here on 29 palms. And we need to go that direction for 29 palms Vortec. So let's just pick that runway. Parking brakes released. Brake test works. Wing looks good. Alrighty. Yeah, let's just do our own little thing. Wonderful, cute little airport here. Didn't check my instruments. Let's do that in a second. So let's turn. As your slip indicator, turn indicator, turns, heading indicator. Everything is stable. Good. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit faster here. And there we go. Trim, yeah. And again, guys, we're gonna make our own 172, and the proportions will be spot on. Better than this, the full Laminar 172. It's gonna be fully animated, and a lot of other stuff that's gonna excite us as serious student pilots. Got some really nice ideas to work on. What I also find interesting as a consideration, also need to, and again, it's not just for eye candy stuff, but it's interesting to think about this. At that more final stage of that development, we can also add additional instruments here to our other right seat panel thing. For example, we could also make a cylinder head temperature gauge, even though that's not by default, at least not in this steam gauge version of the 172. We could just add it, or an additional attitude indicator for what I'm gonna do training flights, teaching flight instruction in this in our own little 172. I mean, we can make it completely our own. Obviously, it's going to be Slant Alpha equipment outfit. I'm also going to make one for the 750 and the other GNSs, GTNs, what are they called? It's going to be cool. What opportunity is this, mate? Good luck with the star. Thanks. This is 29 Palms, and it is made by. There's so many of you who are working on these sceneries. It could be MediWebs, it could be Greg, GPP 500. I don't know. Those guys are really good at their work. I don't know what. I think this is Greg's. All right. Run up area here. Let's do that. No wind, so we can point our nose in towards pretty much any direction. There we go. Engine, is it in the green? Barely. Let's just give it a little bit more of a heat. Again, we're going to depart. We're going to fly towards the Vortec. Yeah, I could set the needle here so we are flying actually inbound to the Vortec first. Let's just use the GPS there to get to 29 Palms. And then we're going to fly that radial. So, yes, what altitude? Well, at least 6,800, right? Because otherwise we will fly into all of that mountainy stuff there ahead, apparently. So, perhaps we should just fly at 8,000. 8,000 feet. So we're going to climb up. What's also interesting is, and I'm not quite sure yet, but with IFR flights, especially when you're departing from a non-towered airport, those are actually the most challenging or most complex. I think they're the most fun. Departures as part of an IFR flight, departing from a non-towered airport, because then you need to make up your own departure based on your obstacle departure procedures or some other way. And I think 29 Palms most likely has its own obstacle departure procedures that I should actually have looked at and used here to get to the 29 Palms Vortec. Any case, I think we need to be at least at 6,800 before we are actually legally allowed to fly this leg. And we need to use holding patterns there at the Vortec to get up to 6,800 or 8,000 in this case, the MEA. I think that's also sometimes described in the obstacle departure procedures, but I'm not sure. Looking at my oil temps. In the green. Good. Mixture full rich. Let's go to 1800. There we go. No unshared messages. Everything is stable. Oil pressure still there. Looks good. Left mag. Good enough drop. Back to both. Right mag. Good enough drop and comparable. Back to both. Idle. No unshared messages. Oil pressure still in the green. Engine sounds good. And back to 1,000. Landing lights on. Strobe lights on. One notch of flaps. Trim a little bit down. Yeah, again, fuel tank's weird, and fuel gauge is also weird. So again, we're going to take off, make sure that there's no other traffic here, and fly on the GPS to the 29 Palms Vortec. Go up to 6,000 or no, to 8,000 feet, and let's have some holding pattern fun, guys. What runway do we have actually here? Runway 8. Okay. Don't see anyone on the final track there. No one on the runway. No. 29 Palms traffic. Skyhawk Pop Hotel Tango Mike is departing runway 8. Straight out departure up to 8,000 feet. 29 Palms. Again, don't feel tempted to follow that yellow line. Use every inch of that runway in case of an engine out. There we go. Look at that curved runway. That's also high on my list in case of flying X-Plane. And I know that's silly, but I love the fact that that runway is curved. It just, I don't know what that does. It's a weird tick. Are we ready? I think we are. There we go. Full power, bit of right weather. Engine still in the green. Airspeed's alive. 40. Bit of a bump there. 50. And 60 rotates. There we go. Bit nose down trim, a bit more. There's 300 feet, flaps up. $29 palms. This is where Mrs. Uncertified did her first solo traffic pattern. That was a very cool stream. Yeah, Ace, we're flying. Exactly. Look at that photoreal scenery. Again, also digital. Don't know if you're still here. I would still appreciate an updated tutorial for using Ortho 4XP, especially with how to set water texture settings, because now I believe that there's a way to landing lights off to render your photoreal coast water stuff while still maintaining the 3D animated water effects by X-Plane, which sounds really, really good. And Valdude's, I always love his streams when he's flying over water, because you actually see the photoreal pictures of the water, which looks so realistic and so pretty. I'd like to do that too, but I don't know how. And also, I have never used Ortho 4XP. I did this with G2 XPL. I'd like to redo my scenery tiles. So I think the digital was planning to do another tutorial on that, but I'm not sure. Still climbing. Well, we're already plus 3,000 feet, so we can already lean a bit. We are full power, which is not really recommended, but I mean leaning with full power, I mean. That's why a cylinder head temperature gauge would be handy. 29 palms traffic, Skyhawk Papa Delta Tango, India Mike has just departed. 29 palms to the east. We're at 4,000 feet, climbing to 8,000, direct to 29 palms Vortec. Last call, 29 palms. Look at that scenery, guys. It's just desert, there's nothing here, but it looks so pretty. I feel like I'm in the June movie. Have you seen that? The June movie? Movies, actually. There are many of those. I think they're actually working on a remake of June. Love that story. Climbing like it's hot. Nicely trimmed. Engine is still looking good. Flaps up. Everything is set. Again, the only thing off is the fuel tanks and the fuel gauge. So again, let's brief. 29 palms Vortec. Once we're there, we're flying 299 inbound, or outbound actually, from 29 palms from reading. That's set there in Nav1, as you can see. And then we're gonna fly towards clouds once we see that this needle is in the center. And when it's in the center, we're gonna fly a right turn, which is going to be a bit challenging because we have crosswinds and I hadn't found any time there to fly that first inbound leg on that holding pattern. So I don't know what the crosswind correction angle actually is. So we need to, yeah, experiment a bit. Let's also set our stopwatch already in the ready. See any other traffic so far? Heading indicator and compass are still not in check. We already have a little bit of a drift. every 10 minutes, verify, cross-check your compass and your heading indicator, especially as a IFR pilot, where you're so much more reliable on your, should be much more relying on your heading indicator or your headings. My trick IR, I'm out of range. I'm too lean forward. Getting to 29 palms, can also see it here. Distance here, 2.2. $6,500. What we can do is already fly a bit towards our fix, so we can catch that needle on the nav1, which is going to go really, really fast because I'm in the complete opposite direction. A little bit further down south. Still catch it. 8,000 as a cruising altitude seemed a bit high, actually, considering how high we were at the airport, what our airport elevation was. But if you look over the cowling, indeed you can see that the terrain is actually quite significant here to Palm Springs. I think that's the big Palm Springs mountain there at the back. There comes the needle, F1. Well, 8,000 feet is not really proper, actually. We're flying a little bit west, so even numbered, so 8,500 would be a better altitude. And because we're flying on PilotEdge, let's just stick to the VFR altitudes. I should have already started my turn a bit earlier. Chatting away here. Alright, so we're now pretty much on that radial. Inbound to Claude. And that's going to be a 15 nautical mile flight. As you can see, between brackets, 15. Alright, cruising altitude is coming up. We have freezing temperatures, you can see on the clock there. -1, we don't have any moist, so no reason to turn on the pitot heat. Trimming, allowing first the airspeed to increase. EGT is very low. Could have already increased that actually while we were climbing, to prevent the fouling of our plugs, which are that is simulated here in a sim with our reality extension pack. There goes the speed. Still climbing there because our speed increases, so our airplane has to climb as well. Trimming. 100 is good enough for me. Let's get to 2400, a little bit easy going. That would also give us a little bit of a nose down. Checking our 200s. It's in sync. Compass and our heading indicator. Alright, so again, wrapping my mind around what we're doing. We're currently on that radial, 200 degrees inbound, or actually outbound from the 29 Palms Vortec, inbound to that, wrong button, inbound to that Claude fix. Already set our heading bug for the holding pattern, and according to my custom sets manual weather, I should now have a 20 knots wind coming from 200. So we actually have a headwind. Mac, what is the reason for flying a holding pattern? Usually when it's busy, it's a parking lot for Skyhawks, or for not Skyhawks, for airplanes in the air. So you can imagine that when a particular airport is so busy because of weather, or there's some hold up or whatever, and the airport cannot cope with the traffic flow inbound, could also be outbound by the way, they need to park airplanes in the sky to say, guys, just wait for 30 or 45 minutes because it's too busy at the airport. Once we have room, you can go in. And so there are various holding patterns out there to stack up aircraft while they are flying in the air, so they can squeeze that traffic into the traffic flow once there's room to do so. That's the primary reason for the holding pattern. You could also fly a holding pattern to get up to an altitude before you're actually on your minimum en route altitude. So it's also a safe way in IFR terms, I guess. It's mostly, I think it's primarily only IFR related. And for 172, the chances are that we will be assigned a holding pattern is negligible. You're welcome, Mac. You're welcome. So, still trying to track that needle. Again, I'm not really that focused. Also 150 feet off of my cruising altitude, which is not that bad, but as an IFR pilot you should just be spot on. And just also as a VFR pilot, just be precise. Just be precise, Tim. And I'm waiting for this needle to come in, because then we know that we are actually on Claude. And it seems that it's already very slowly creeping in. Yes, it is. So that's good. Okay, LM, holdings are IFR, VFR is only 360s? I guess, yeah. Or traffic patterns, they are pretty much the same, I guess. We're creeping now, exactly. We are creeping. Okay, back on track with the nav 1. So again, let's rehearse. Holding pattern is here at the top. If it's, yeah, it's barely at the top here. So that means a direct entry. Again, if you want to know about how to enter holding patterns, which is the most confusing bit of holding patterns actually, go to UncertifiedPilot.com, my latest blog, download the PDF, and you can, there's I think I found a really simple strategy to quickly determine on the fly, literally, how you enter patterns. And it just depends on a particular range of headings and where your heading bug for that inbound holding pattern is. And I just memorized that holding range, that heading range, and then I know, oh, the heading bug is in that range, so I know that that is associated with that particular entry. Okay, so almost there. We're almost at Claude. We're going to make right turns. We should have already have a headwind right now, 200 degrees, and once we are on that, established on that holding pattern, that headwind that we have now would then be a crosswind. So the wind is coming from 200, so we need to overturn on our turn to the right. Okay, here we are on cloud. You see both needles are in the center. So there we go, standard rate turn. Perhaps here we can actually overturn because you're not even on track. So now we're on that holding pattern, and now I'm gonna go more standard rate turn. Look at our turn indicator there. Until that heading bug is at the bottom. We're flying the downwind leg, you could say. That's a wrong term to use, but a downwind leg of our holding pattern. A little bit more power. Should also increase my turn just a tiny bit. And once we are there, I'm going to hit that stopwatch. Outbound lag, exactly. Overturning now because that wind is still coming from 200. So just a bit and on. 1 minute. Below 14,500 feet, your traffic patterns or your holding pattern should be 1 minute long. If you're flying above that, it should be 2 minutes. And that's usually for the jets, because as a Skyhawk we cannot fly above 14,500. All right. Let's fly 1 minute. I think we're flying a bit too much into the wind. Getting my heading bug a little bit more to the bottom. 44 seconds. Now let's see what this does. And again, nav 2 is Palm Springs, so that's our holding pattern reference. It's already quite in the middle. I guess because we're so far off. Already past that 1 minute. Come on, Tim. Okay, there's our standard rate turn. Reset. I said reset. A little bit more standard rate, Tim. Nicely trimmed. You can see we're already now on the radial. So technically we're already flying in the non-protected area of our holding pattern. We already flown over that little chunk. And that's not good. Could be that I inversed the winds, that the winds were not coming from, but flying towards 200. Thanks for the follow, X-Sky Bro. Thank you, appreciate it. Oh, no. I'm totally right. So now we're still in that protected area, obviously. Oh no. Did I set this? We're from, this is outbound. Why didn't I set this? Yeah, I've increased it. I should have set this to 255 then. Yeah, that's a mistake. 25, what was it? 252. Something like this. Yeah, that was stupid of me. I've used the outbound, I set the outbound radial and then the needle. So if, that's also, you can really confuse yourself if you like. This thing should obviously be set to 2, not to from. Because if it's from what you're flying towards, then the needle has reverse sensing. That's what just happened. So we're now flying in the non-protected area of the holding pattern, which is not good. And I think in my mind I've set the winds in the other direction. They're not coming from 200, but they're flying towards. So we now actually have a tailwind. Let me see. So already passed on this needle, so I think we already crossed it. Oh man, this is confusing. Interesting. Okay, let's try again. Also, 500 feet too high. Look at that. That's called fixation. Just focusing on that needle rather than scanning through all my instruments. And thanks for that follow, the brick. Thank you. So let's try to fix this. So now we are shortening our turn, because apparently the winds are different than I thought. So let's just stick it to here. Can make up for our mess up earlier. Just using my yoke to push my nose down. Get back to 8,500, and I should set my clock to him. Passed on some seconds. I think I can see, referring to the scenery, that I am indeed being pushed by the winds. Okay, still. Let's see what this does. It's going to review the flight and visualize our flight track so we can see later what we actually been doing. Now let's start at 55 seconds. Yeah, now this needle deflection looks a bit better than what it was in our first round. Already past our 55 seconds. Standard rate turn, Tim. There we go. Then we can reset. Yeah, this is inbound or inbound leg. Yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. Focus. And now we should have enough time to catch this radial while we are turning towards that radial. A little bit too shallow turn. There it comes. Also increase our bank a bit, rather be too quick with our turning than too lazy. Yeah, this is better. There we go. We still have some room there. Almost precise. Actually shallow our turn here so we catch that needle. That's proper. Good. And now we keep flying until this needle also centers it again. We got that cross-referenced, right? That's the idea. Let's do it another time. There we go. Back on that inbound leg holding pattern. Yeah, so what I learned, if I'm already skipping ahead here. No, don't talk when you need to do things, Tim. Sterile cockpits. Both needles are centered, so there we go. Standard rate turn. Yeah, so always set with a VOR or intersection. Holding pattern, come on, standard rate turn, Tim. Set the OBS, set this heading to the inbound heading that you're actually flying. It's the same heading as your heading bug. That was a mess up, I already knew that, but I didn't, and that confused me in the first, with the entry. Also not sharp with that standard rate turn. As you can see, I'm not really being that yeah, this is better. And because we're flying a standard rate turn, it's 2 minutes, 360 degrees, so 180 degrees is 1 minute. So every leg that we're flying in our holding pattern is 1 minute. In a no winds condition, obviously. We've got winds, so again, shortening that turn, putting on my stopwatch. There we go. Nicely trimmed. Well, a bit nose up. Tiny bit nose up. Yeah, and again, this is the kind of deflection that you like to see on your holding pattern referenced nav. This is the room, these are the nautical miles that you need to make that turn. Oh. What did I do? I changed this one with my scroll wheel. It should be 2. Yeah, exactly 2. Yeah, good. So drifting to the right side, which is not good. Okay, I get the idea. I get the idea. Here comes 1 minute. And there we go. Making the turn. Standard rate. Click, click. And then we're going to continue. So that's 252 to Palm Springs. We're going to land at Palm Springs. Lovely flying weather. Even though it's custom weather, custom set weather. Standard rate, Tim. Good. Needle's looking good. As you can see, we're slowly creeping on the nav 2. And we still have some room left. During holdings, the inbound lag should be 1 minute. In your case, the outbound lag should be adjusted for that wind correction. Roger. I was actually using it the other way around in my mind, actually. It's a good one, Dance. Yeah. So in case also you got a crosswind component, you can have a tailwind or a headwind. And so either one of your outbound or inbound legs should be changed in order to compensate for that tail or headwind. And your inbound leg should always be 1 minute, so you mess around with that outbound leg. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, and again, the worst thing that you can do, which is really the concern of the controllers, and should also be your concern therefore, is stay in the protected area of the holding pattern. So we're always flying on the right side here of this fix. If we're not supposed to fly on at this direction, perhaps because of the terrain here or because of other airways. So they don't really mind that much what you're doing. What the shape of the holding pattern is, it should be a proper holding pattern, obviously. Alright, and again they're centered, and then we could further continue our flight. So what I should have done is I didn't set the timer for the inbound legs of my holding pattern according to Dent, and I think he's right. I actually should. Oh. Because that should be 1 minute. And if it's not, then I need to compensate for that. Now, we'll continue our flight now. 8,500. 252 to Sabono. And then to Palm Springs VOR. Just direct to Palm Springs VOR, actually. And what's interesting is, as you can see, set my OBS here to 252, but we are, oh, that's also something that I forgot, cross-referenced. I mean, obviously we're already past 10 minutes. 242, look at that, look at the difference already. Yeah, that should be much more important now. Cross-reference, Tim, cross-reference. Yeah, but you can still see that we are crabbed in the wind, perhaps a bit too much. a bit too much. We're very slowly drifting off. But that's not too bad. Yes, so here we are, and that's the Palm Springs area in front of us. There's the Salton Sea. Palm Springs Airport is somewhere over there. Bermuda Dune should be over here. And that's also because I'm not that interested now anymore in the IFR routes here. What we could do is hop over to our VFR sectional chart, because I know indeed there are some military training routes here. VR 1257. So these are 4 digits. So that means that they're flying low, below 1500 feet AGL. And here on PilotEdge, those guys are simulated, so we might run into a formation flight, high-speed flight of military air traffic, just when we are entering the Palm Springs area. So let's, even though we're flying at 8,500, in terms of AGL, we might be flying barely scratching 1,500 or 3,000 AGL, I don't know. So let's have a close look out. So turn on our landing lights, even though it's AI, but just to become more visible. Let's see if we can find those guys. So far, so good. I should trimmed again, engine is looking great. Yeah, so what have I learned? I've learned to, yeah, but I already knew that it was just a mistake. Set the OBS here of my holding pattern nav to the inbound heading that you're actually going to fly the thing. The same heading bug reference thing, yeah. Also learned, or reminded to, no, it was actually learned, to use the inbound lag to set the, make sure that that's always 1 minute, accounting for that wind factor. Yes, and cross reference every 10 minutes, and that's also for our VFR flights, obviously. Cross reference. What a beautiful scenery. It's looking clear to me. Again, would also emphasize the use of flying on fly following as a VFR flight, obviously. So got an additional set of eyes, ATC controllers who are watching us, watching over us, and they can notify us of incoming or nearby traffic, including active training routes, military training routes. What a gorgeous picture. What do you think, guys? Man, my favorite area to fly. Zeros looks better from an aircraft. Yeah, prick. Ace, exactly. And again, I particularly love the Palm Springs area, well, also because of nostalgia. Palm Springs Airport, International Airport over there, was the first airport that I landed on ATC, on PilotEdge, with Marcus as the controller, so it's a special memory. Man, I was anxious. And the area itself, there's always, almost always, perfect flying weather. Usually all of the bad weather is staying at the coast side and cannot go, well, even there are mountain ranges beyond this one. It just is stuck there in the Bay Area. So all of this mountain is actually just keeping away the bad weather. And thirdly, you've got a nice towered, very beautiful, nice airport. Look at that mountain, it's so scenic. But we also have Bermuda Dunes airport, non-towered airport, and it should be somewhere nearby here. It should be over there, I guess. Yeah, there it is. Bermuda Dunes. Very cute, tucked away, non-towered area, and we got thermal as well. And well, 29 Palms here nearby. We got Benning over there. We got all kinds of other airports. It's such a nice area to fly. It's really nice. Ace, can you talk about the blue, black, green in the middle of the dashboards? The blue, black, green. You mean this thing, Ace? Or this thing? I think the middle of the I think you're referring to the GPS. Let me know. Let's also descend, and again, once we're descending, one concern is shock cooling the engine, because we're obviously running with a well, not really that warm engine. I think still there are some things off of the rep package. Fuel flow is much too low. Oil temperature is also very low. It's still in the green though, but it's always keep an RPM going, so rather than going idle for going down, it cools down the engine too much, too rapidly. So just keep an RPM going and just point your nose down and, well, get a higher airspeed increase. That's better, which also results in greater air running into the engine, but it's better. And especially when you're flying high, we have leaned the engine because the air is thinner here, high up. So the mixture of air and fuel is set properly for the most efficient fuel burn. So EGT is our measure there. It's high up, high engine, high temperature. But now that we're descending, the air is getting thicker again. So rather than leaning the mixture, we should now subtly enriching our mixture, which is important, because if we keep this mixture setting while we are descending, the air is going to suffocate once we are down at traffic pattern altitudes, because it doesn't have enough, or suffocate, perhaps that's not the good, it doesn't have enough fuel to burn. You can actually all kind of stutters, and you actually might prevent your engine from running, which is something you would always like to prevent. So that's why it's important. Anyway, yes, GPS I see. Yes, so Ace, yeah, this is the GPS. I'm also running it with the Reality XP plugin, payware. So it's highly functional. We've got 2 of those. And yeah, it's just a moving map that you can use. And to be honest, I'm not a fan. Even though I bought that payware, I'd love to learn how to fly the GPS here, or the GTN 530. But usually I'd like to develop the skill of situational awareness by looking outside, by reading charts, by using radio navigation rather than using the GPS. So that's also why in my side project, building my own Skyhawk for X-Plane, I will make a version where there's no GPS in. Just slant alpha, just radios, old style. I think that's much more fun, exciting flying than with the GPS. So that also tells you that I'm actually not that much of an expert with the GPS, which is not a good thing. You should be able to get the most out of your squeeze, the most use out of your GPS, and especially when you're flying in the LAX area, the dense condense. For example, here in Palm Springs, it's not that exciting, but take a look at the LAX. I mean, advanced, complex VFR flying, avoiding Bravo airspace and stuff. So many airports, so many traffic. Yeah. You would be a dead man if you're not flying with GPS. Still, you can fly without GPS there, still, but you would be silly not flying or not using your GPS when you're flying in that area. So, switched to 119.7 again. PilotEdge is not on, so it's actually now we're actually flying locally in the middle of the night here, currently in Palm Springs. And so the PilotEdge controllers are not there, so this is CTAF. So that means that we just approach the airport like we would if it was an untowered airport. It is actually an untowered airport right now. So what I'm going to fly is 3-1 right. It's a smaller runway. It's such a beautiful airport. And we're going to enter it following the proper procedures. So we're going to enter the downwind from a 45-degree angle, It's a right-handed traffic pattern. So wham, 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 wham. So what I'm going to fly is like this, and then 45 degree, and then the downwind base, and then we're going to descend. So we're now about 5 miles to the, look at the bottom, northeast of the airport. And at 5,000 feet, and we're going to go inbound. What's the altitude of, airport elevation I mean, of the airport? It's 476. So 1,500 probably will be our traffic pattern altitude. Palm Springs Tower, or traffic. Skyhawk, Papa Hotel Tango Lima Mike is 5 miles northeast of the airport, currently at 5,000 and descending to traffic pattern altitude. We're going to enter the right downwind for runway 31 right for a full stop. Palm Springs traffic. Yeah, usually it's Palm Springs Tower because there's someone there in the tower. But now, because it's non-towered, you refer to it as traffic. You're talking to the other traffic on the channel. But apparently there's no one flying here in Palm Springs. Landing lights are still on, strobe lights on. Mixture, you can see the EGT is still is going down a bit. That's because I didn't enrich my mixture. Oh, it was actually too much enriched, as you can see. I'm now enriching my mixture and it's going down. So let's just pull it back a bit. We're still plus 3,000 feet, MSL, so we could still lean. There we go. Palm Springs is, well, I think 80% made out of golf resorts, golf courses. I would love to visit Palm Springs one day, especially because it's such a special place for me to fly. It feels really like my home airport. I've also printed out the airport diagram of Palm Springs Airport in a big poster, and I put it here on my wall. Palm Springs is my airport. Perhaps those sounds, which are annoying, come from the Reality XP. To look at that. Okay. Still, we're not really beyond the airport. Still, I need to enter it from a 45 degree. So that's why I'm continuing to fly this direction, so we can then make a left turn. And once we are established on that 45, again I'm going to do a call, because perhaps meanwhile someone has already stepped into the cockpit, just turned on his avionics and didn't catch my first initial call. So you just try to, with non-towered airport flying, it's so fun. I think it's even more complex than flying IFR flying. IFR flying is mostly just knowledge, procedural flying, and obviously with VFR flying there are also procedures, but you can be so much more creative, and you should be so much more vigilant, because everyone can be creative, and perhaps some are a bit too creative and they do things that are really dangerous. So you need to, what you're actually doing on a non-towered airport is developing shared situational awareness. So I'm helping others to know what I'm doing, so they know that they know what they can do. You can follow me there. All right. Again, 15. Yeah, we don't know what the ADIS is actually. What the barometric pressure is. 118.25. 118.25, because I'm reading my altimeter, but perhaps we're already very, very low.
Palm Springs INTL information November 2000 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility 1. Sky clear, temperature 14, dew point -5. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runways.
Oh, obviously it's 2992. Standard pressure.
Departing runways 13
because
right.
I set my own weather. Okay, oh well, not too bad. I'm not too far off. Okay, landing lights on, good. We're already in flaps 1 speed, so 10 degrees of flaps. Palm Springs traffic. Sky Pop Hotel Tango Mike is on the 45 right downwind for runway 31 right full stop. Palm Springs traffic. Okay, just as an aid, we can set our heading bug, and again double check. South, south, yeah. Something like that. Keep on descending, good. Now make sure full in. Lights are on, yeah, we're ready to go. Hey agent, good to see you, welcome. Just catch the landing here on Palm Springs. Okay. 1,500 feet is coming up. A bit more power, we need to stay 80 plus. Go. Visibility is really worsening when we go down. Perhaps that's why my visibility settings, I don't know what's going on there with X-Plane. A bit more power. Palm Springs traffic, Sky Papa Delta Tango Mike is on the right downwind, 31 right, full stop, Palm Springs. So there's the long runway, it's a huge long runway actually, Palm Springs here. But that's not the runway that we're going to fly, we're going to fly the 31 right runway, that's one. And we're going to park around here. General Aviation. Already past midpoint here, so we can further descend already. Dance floor, so early touchdown, Tim. No floating, please. Roger that. Let's see. I was also thinking about a challenge. I still have some time to stream, so perhaps we can do something else. Not an entirely new flight, but something that we can do to extend this particular flight. And nailing landings is always fun. Palm Springs traffic. Sky Papa Delta Tango Mike is turning right base, 3 on right, full stop, Palm Springs. Engine outline. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well, Dance. Well, let's do that. Again, what I would really love is to have a feature where you guys can initiate the engine out. So I don't know. Alright, double check. Landing lights on, everything is on, fully up, mixture full in. Parking brakes are released, also important. We're too high. Look at that visibility, my gosh, it's not VFR anymore, I think. VMC. And Palm Springs traffic, Sky Papa Delta Tango Mike is on final, runway 31 right, full stop. Now we're going to make it a touch and go, 31 right, Palm Springs. Because we're going to do that engine out, right? We made the field, flaps up. So in case of an engine out, we would be able already to glide down to the airfield, so that is our call to go full flaps. 4 wides, but we're descending like a brick. It's interesting why they put taxi over here. There was a time where this runway was used because that one was restored. And it's such a big taxiway that sometimes pilots can think that that is the runway. It's interesting. A bit more power there. No floating then said, so let's see if we can honor his request. Also with 25 people on board. Should be a good chance of a slow, nice, gentle landing. No floating. Nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up. Yes, that was pretty good. Alright, full power. Still 10 degrees of flaps. Track that centerline, Tim. Airspeed is live, 50, 60, and there we go. Nose down a bit so we can increase our airspeed to VY. Nose Nose on trim, nose on trim, nose on trim, nose on trim. Look at that visibility. Yeah. Engine now landing. IFR pilot now. Here's a Ford style. Whoa, so slow. Good landing, nice landing. Thank you, guys. So engine outs. Now, the engine out at downwind isn't that much of a problem. The real problem is an engine out, well, right about now. Where we are still not high enough to make a 180 turn, because you lose so much altitude in that turn with an engine out. You also just lose altitude just by just reacting to the fact that you've got an engine out and you push your nose down. So the takeoff is actually the most dangerous phase of your entire flight. An engine out during takeoff is the worst thing that can happen, with a chance that you need to fly into that urban area. It's also why it's important to rehearse your... I should have already made my base turn, or my crosswind turn, by the way. So my flaps up. Palm Springs traffic, Sky Bar Hotel Dinghy Mike is on the right crosswind, runway 31 right. Palm Springs. Don't know what we're going to do. Nose down. But that's also why when you're going to depart an airport, you can practice this so well in X-Plane, is to check out what your options are if you got an engine out when you are not 1,000 feet AGL. So where could we land? Well, this stuff, there's a street there, but you don't have that much room to mess around with. Okay, are you ready, guys, for an engine out? Let's see what we can do. One notch of flaps here. Let's make it a little bit more difficult and go to midpoint, because otherwise I could just make a right turn. Nose down, we're a bit too high, which is also a little bit of a cheat, actually. Yes, I'm on the PilotEdge, agent. Alright, there we go. Engine out. Whoop. Alright, first up, nose down. Glide. Alright. Well, obviously we got a very long runway. Let's pick the longest one. Nice clouds, glide, glide, glide. Everything is set, set, set. Let's turn off our magnetos. Good. It's not going to be a crash landing. That field here in front of us could have been used. And there we go. You can even set flaps. Look at that speed, Tim. And this is dangerous here. We're going to make a turn while we have an engine out and we don't have that much. I mean, in terms of angle of attack, that's risky. So I'm waiting with my 20-degree flaps here. There we go. Look at that speed. I'm very concerned with that speed. There we go. Such a nice sound, don't you think, guys? Sailing, sailplanes. We should also do that once more. There we go. Another notch of flaps. Keep my nose down. Now, another consideration, if you are in luck, is to also be prepared to, let's not go full flaps, taxi off of the runway so the runway is not blocked by the fact that you just landed here. Nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up. Ooh! Haha. So, flaps up. We are not braking, but we are looking for the first chance to taxi off of the runway. And I don't know whether we're gonna make that because we do have some wheel friction. No, perhaps we can. There's our exit. So very gentle turn, not too much. Nah, barely. This is not enough. Well, that's something that you can do to make friends with the air traffic controllers, because then the runway is still in use. And there we are. Good job, thanks. I'd like to do one more thing because we have time. Engine is still hot. Yes, bit of throttle in. There we go. I'd like to do an engine out at takeoff and exactly at 1,000 feet AGL to see if we can actually mess around with that. Well, we're on PilotEdge, so what I'm doing right now is not good. Palm Springs traffic. Sky Hotel Tango Mike is back taxiing on runway 31 left to do a takeoff and a simulated engine out practice. Palm Springs traffic. It's really weird to do this on a usually towered airport. I've never flown. I think I've never flown on Palm Springs outside of the PilotEdge live hours. It's a bit weird. Set keyboard key to shut off fuel so it's instant. Well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's just, for practice sakes, set this to 0, 0. So the rule is that you should be at least 1,000 feet above the runway, above the ground, before you can may decide to turn around with an engine out, turn around and land back onto the airfield. Why? Because if you're any lower, just because of turning with an engine out, you will probably not make it. You need at least 1,000 feet of room to be able to glide back to the airport. And there are so many cases of accidents where people tried. Virtual, thanks for the viewers, man. Thank you. Appreciate that, host. Let me see, flaps are up or flaps are at 10 degrees. Where people, well, try to turn around to the airport because they just left the airport, but then were unable to do so and crash into the trees. 50, 60. Let's see what happens in our case. We go up. We go up. VY. Now. Let's see what happens. So at 1,000 feet, I'm going to cut off the engine. I mean, imagine that the engine would go out right now. I would go to the front here, look at that area over there. We should simulate that as well after this one, and then we call it a day. Simulated engine outs, guys. That's what we're doing. Hey, the Sham. Welcome on the stream. Alright guys, so flaps up, because that's something that we would do about 300 feet AGL. Again, let's trim. Now what's also a little bit of a cheat is that we know that our engine is going to go out. So that makes us able to really fast respond quickly. Thanks for the follow, James. Thank you. Okay, here we go guys. Engine out during takeoff. 1,000 feet. Well, this seems easy to me, but... And cut off. There we go, nose down, glide. That's what we did. And we need to initiate that turn right away. Make it a coordinated turn as well. Always important to prevent that stall. We're flaps up. Should we already go one flap down? You might think so, because it also decreases our speed. Yes. This seems like an FAA approved. Look at that. Still though, I mean, obviously that Palm Springs runway is very long, so obviously we will be able to make this. But we took off around there, so if this was a short runway, let's see how far we can get this. And I guess I need to do this with flaps up to increase my glide distance, because if I now go 10 degrees of flaps, I think I would decrease my stall speed, but I think I would also decrease my gliding distance. Well, 1,000 feet is a pretty good measure. At least you would make the airport field, the airfield, rather than just a runway. One notch of flaps. Second notch of flaps. I love that sound pack. There we go. Nose up. Just allow the airplane to land itself. Keep that nose up. Slowly down. Nice. Yeah. So that was good. Should have turned on my magneto switches, by the way. A little bit of throttle in. There we go. That was cool. Now let's do an engine out significantly, let's say 500 feet. That's gonna be difficult, guys. Replay, yeah, we're gonna look at the replay soon. Hey, Sphere! Good to see you. Happy Saturday, guys. So many of you. 46, my gosh, 66. Awesome. In our cute little Skyhawk here. I'm hoping that it's not too crammed up in the back seat. Okay, so engine out at 500 might be a bit too extreme. It might be so obvious that it's difficult to make that. So shall we just make it a little more like an experiment and go like 800 feet AGL to see if that really makes a difference? Well, we got a really long runway in this case, so that might not be that interesting. Thank you, Spheres, for the follow. Yeah, let's just stick 500 feet. Worst case scenario. It could also be lower. Well, if it's lower, actually, it could be not a worst case scenario, because then you can still be able to just land on that same runway where you took up from. So you should be high enough, but not too high, and that's the danger zone. That's the no return. Mixture full in, everything is set. Flaps 10-ish? No. Full power. There we go. Right rudder. Airspeed's alive. Engine is still good. 50 and 60 and rotate. There we go. Keep that nose a bit low to get to VY. 500 feet, guys. Here at Palm Springs Airport. That's VY. Looking good. It's such a nice airport here, Palm Springs. My gosh. 300 feet, flaps up. Alright, compensate by a little bit more nose up trim. Keep that speed at VY. Tim, thanks for the follow. Greece. Oh, that's a bit too much of a nose up. 500 feet, cut off. Glide. Turn. Yeah, this is going to be exciting. Why am I making a left turn when I know that all the hangars are at the left side? Nose down, nose down, nose down. Coordinated, Tim. Coordinated turn, because I don't want to slip into a stall. Cities, houses, swimming pools. Well, yeah, but again, we've got a long runway. So we took off so much more further ahead around there. So we are in luck that it's such a long runway. We are still able to... Let's get to 300 feet. And let's see what we can do. Full flaps. Well, 20-degree flaps. Sorry. Watch that speed. And again. Just allow the airplane to land itself. It goes down on its own accord. And keep that nose up and then slowly lower that nose. Alright, magnetos, I should have turned those off. Throttle reset. Slowly advance the mixture. And there we go. Okay, 300 feet AGL. Let's see how I handle that. I think... Yeah, it's Palm Springs, guys. Palm Springs Airport. 300 feet AGL. This is also why, and I've noted this down on my iPad as well. Let me see my stickies. Thanks for the follow, Feli. So this is an app that I'm using just to note down all of the things that I'm focused on and improving for each of my every flights. One big tip, if you're serious about your flight simming like I am, using my sim for serious real-world flight training, reflect on your flights, write down what you'd like to improve upon next time. That's such a simple but such an effective aid. So this is the stuff that I'm focused on. There's other stuff as well, and I think part of this is also when I'm climbing pre-takeoff. Yes, there it is. Here in the purple, pre-takeoff checks, rejected takeoff calls. I saw someone do that. I think it was a CFI on YouTube that was taking off, and with each, I mean, there are different stages to your takeoff where you can do a particular rejected takeoff. One is when you've got an engine out while you're still on the takeoff roll on the ground, you can just tap the brakes and exit the runway. Then you got a rejected takeoff when you're just low enough, you're airborne, but you're low enough, 200 feet, 300 feet, where you can still make the runway. That's a call. And I should remember, or I should learn what my altitude would be for that particular run. I guess it's just visual. It depends on how long the runway actually is. So you're taking off, and you're obviously focusing on your VY and your stuff, but while you are taking off, you're noting what action you're going to take if the worst case scenario happens when you got an engine out. And there's usually, so first you can still make that runway then, or you can tap the brakes. Then when you're airborne, you can still re-land that same runway at the runway end. And then there's a stage where you're 300 feet, between 300 and 700 feet, when the only escape is just to pick a spot, a crash site in front of you, because you're not high enough to turn around and get back to the airport, where you just need to fly into a field or on a street or whatever. And that's the critical altitude. And when you're higher up, then you can obviously just turn around and make the field again. Flaps. There we go. Right tab. Again, everything looks good. Track IR enabled. 40. 50. So 300 feet, guys. Again, there we go. So again, if now we got an engine out, we can still make the runway. And in this case, that's why you would like to use as much runway as you can. And never do an intersection departure when you don't have to, because you can still make that runway. Alright, coming up, 300 feet. I'm gonna also go flaps up. There we go. And off. Whoa, we're gonna go down. What am I gonna do? This is obvious. I cannot make this. So then I would look for a field here. And I know it's gonna be a crash landing, so I'm gonna open my door. Gonna switch off my magnetos. Oh. Fuel tank should be off, 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 off. Seat belts released. There's a fence. And batteries, we can still make a call like we're ditching. Batteries off. I could have set flaps. That's one thing that I could have done. Uh-oh, there's a fence over there. Fuck. Up. That's a bubble. Ah, sorry guys, 60 people now have their backs broken. We keep our yoke aft, and there we are. I opened the door because when you crash, or you have a likelihood of crashing, then the door can be stuck. I mean, because the airframe then is damaged, you cannot. There's a chance that you're not able to open the door anymore. So that's why you open it, so you always have a chance to escape. And then we go out, and that's it. That was really, really fun. Now let's do a review, guys. Plugins, PilotEdge, disconnect. Let's have a look. First, I'd like to go all the way back to 29 palms where we started, because I'd like to review my holding pattern exercise as well. And while we are here, let's also close that door because it might look silly otherwise. Yes. And let's go outside. And let's turn on our track. So, here are our holding patterns. at SWOD. So again, for those who are just jumping in, I've been practicing holding pattern flying as part of my first arrival that I've flown. And this was the particular holding pattern that I was flying. Charts. Here it is. So I departed from 29 Palms Airport, went to the vortex of 29 Palms, flew downwards to that cloud intersection. It was an intersection-based holding pattern, and I was doing that with a crosswind, significant crosswind component, and that's what I did, right-handed traffic patterns, or holding patterns I did. And so I'm curious now to see how well I did. And as you can see, it's actually pretty cool. Let me see if I can do this more quick. Man, we're going so slow. So this is that track towards the Palm Springs VOR initially. This bit here we drifted off and just went VFR. So this is actually our inbound holding pattern leg. So you can see that I've been all over the place. Let me see if we can still. So this is where we came from. Yeah, so there's 29 Palms. We departed here. Got on that track to what was it? Or just 200 inbound. Then we hit. Yeah, this is where we hit that. What did we do? What did I do? I mean, if you look at the holding pattern here, we were coming from 29 Palms. We're going down, and then we're going to make that turn. First right turn. That's this. That's where we're going. Little tiny Skyhawk over there flying. Why did I overturn that much? I mean, this is the inbound leg. Was it all winds? That was a bit of a mistake. And I noticed, because when we were making that turn all the way around, I noticed that we already crossed that particular inbound leg. And I said, okay, now we're not in the protective airspace of the holding pattern anymore. So I went back, tried to fly back to that fix, overturn here, 1 minute. Yes, and then we fixed ourselves. Then we did get on that track. Or it was this track, I think. Yeah, it was this one. Yeah, we still overshot it just a tiny bit, and then that last round, and that was the first. That last traffic pattern was just about right, and we crabbed into the wind. Yeah. Your nav1 course was wrong for the first two patterns, I believe. Ah, yeah, then that could be the case. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I didn't do much good, but I did get the hang of it, and it wasn't that difficult. Also, not with flying an intersection. There were just standard things that I was just a little bit sloppy there, but very quickly I regained my focus. Good. Then let's get back to the cockpit here, and let's go to Palm Springs. This is our entry on the downwind leg. Let's have a look at that as well. Shift 4. That's our base turn. Our beautiful yellow Skyhawk. Okay. I love this airplane. There we went. Okay, looking at the shadow, main wheels first, and we should not be crabbed into the wind. There were no winds, I believe. Here comes the shadow. Nicely. Nose up. That was a little bit dangerous. So I'm hitting, and here I'm increasing. So I was a little bit delayed in that yoke deflection there. That's not good. Still was a good landing though. We're not really on the center line, so that could be improved. One last thing that I'd like to see is our crabbed position. Possible crabbed position. And we were not. Nicely aligned with the center line. Yeah, you can see that I was a little bit off there, and that's why I also went off the center line. Okay. Next was our engine out, I believe, and it would happen around here. Midfield. Boom. There it was. Control P, P. Boom. Goodbye. Yes. Yeah, not that difficult actually. Oh, here you can see those rejected takeoffs soon. Let's first review this landing. Control P away for. Going down, going down, going down, going down. Let's see how I did. In real life, this wouldn't happen to you. It's the missing G-force that led up to things like that. Oh, probably dance. Yeah. Look at that. Beauty. Again, my nose was pointed a little bit down to the left here. So that's why I needed to redo my stuff. Yeah. Then we were interested in the rejected takeoff things. Control P. There we went. So look at all of that runway. How short of a distance takeoff roll we actually need. It's around 960 feet for the 172 SP. There we went, there we went. And this was... Yeah, we did it 2 times. Actually quite high there. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Engine out. Gliding first. There we went. Back to the airfield. Yeah, it was pretty much... And again, we've got such a long runway, so it's not that difficult. Oh, that was a nice sound. Again. Nose up. Thanks for the follow, Justin. Thank you. Welcome on the stream. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm always a bit left-center. That's that left tendency, especially with the RPM still on idling. So usually you always land left of center. Yes. Then we check that 7 or 300 feet. Yeah, this was 700. And boom. And again. Yeah, I was really close. Yeah, perhaps I should have actually made a right turn here. Even though you could say, well, then I would cross the approach or departure of 3-1 or 1-3 left here. Toto, thanks for the O's, man. Good to see you. Also here as part of my flight streams rather than my Cessna development streams. Great help. Toto helped me with a lot of technical stuff there to make the Skyhawk, the initial flight model. Which is completed, Toto. It's completed. The flight model, at least, for now. Flies pretty well. Good landing. Looks really, really good. Yeah, so 700 feet also. But again, this is because the runway of Palm Springs is so damn long. So we obviously for rejected takeoffs, engine outs, this is ideal. But if this was Bermuda Dunes or Oceano, for example, a very small runway, yeah, then you would really be in trouble. If we already took off here. Yeah, we landed around there each time. Perhaps we could have made the airfield rather than the runway itself. in case of an Oceano airport or so. Then last one is the engine out at 300 feet AGL. Da ba ba ba, and I was talking about all kinds of sticky notes. Come on. If I'm going to use the slider, I'm off too much, I think. Come on, Tim. Full throttle. Full throttle. Thank you. Zzz. 300. Yeah, there it was. Man. Yeah, this is. There was no way. There we were. And again, I knew that we were simulating an engine out. So in the real world, obviously, you're just floating along, right? You're in your VY mindset. And so once you have an engine out, you need to be very responsive to immediately push down that nose. And then you think, oh my gosh, engine out. Where do I need to go to, right? And so if you haven't rehearsed or prepped that in your working memory as part of your pre-takeoff checks, you take valuable seconds before you even start turning, even though you might have enough altitude to make the field again. So that's also a bit of a cheat in this exercise, because we already know that we got an engine out, and we already know that we'd like to return to the field. Hey Dad, hey Tim, still in the message that you went in the air. Oh my gosh. Well, perhaps you should reinstall your Twitch app on your phone. I don't think it's a setting on my end. This is perhaps a call for everyone just watching right now. I guess that at least my followers. Did you get a notification of me going live 2 hours ago or so? Here I should also put in some flaps just to decrease my stall speed here and get a more gentle landing going. Because what you see happening here is that I'm flying around my angle of attack here, and then I hit my stall, pre-stall, and then bang! And that was not good. DMB, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it, guys. And the Sparks, you have to turn on notification per channel to get the email notification. Yeah, that's true, Anne. Yeah, that's true. Finish, yes, I did. Oh, Roger, thank you, guys. Severa also. Good to see you. Finish. Okay, so I think it's on your end, Dad. Your Twitch app. Did it. Very, very nice flight. So completed 2 things, also an arrival, and we also did a holding pattern based off of an intersection. Very interesting, and with a crosswind component. Lesson learned. Well, lesson learned again. Cross-check your compass and your heading indicator much more often, Tim, because it's drifting already off within 10 minutes. That's the habit. Every 10 minutes, double check. Obviously, with a holding pattern or with any IFR flying, also with VFR flying, you like to be spot on with your headings. So that's very, really important. Terry, thanks for the follow. And that was important. Yeah, I was silly to not set this particular heading to the actual inbound heading that I needed to fly the holding pattern. So I was sending it in the radial heading, the outbound heading, which was quite confusing and not really. I should have known. So that was a little bit of a mess up. And that Dance was also suggesting me that my inbound legs in that holding pattern. So this initial part should be timed as 1 minute, and you mess around in the outbound leg to compensate for that wind factor, but your inbound leg should always be 1 minute. And what I was doing also in the previous streams was I just taken that inbound leg for granted. The main focus for me was just getting on that radial, and I don't care how long it takes me to get to that fix. It's just sticking on that radial. Thanks, Carl, for your follows. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So yeah, not a biggie, but it's important. So I still have some holding patterns to do, namely 2. Next stream, and that's going to be, I guess not tomorrow, I think Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to fly a NDB or an ADF-based holding pattern. Interesting, also with a crosswind. And I'm also going to fly one that is GPS referenced, which is also interesting. I don't know how I need to go about doing that. Perhaps I can just load up a holding pattern in my GPS. That requires still a little bit of study. And then once I did that, I completed all of my training flights. Again, if you're new to my channel, my project, I have scheduled all of my training flights on my website, UncertifiedPilot.com, and I've messed around with this IFR program a bit more because I had too many training flights actually scheduled that could all be combined. So here it is, Uncertified Pilot, and yeah, so what we did today was the holding patterns at intersections. NDB and GPS are coming up next, and then it is finally time to fly those sweet, awesome, fancy instrument approaches. The approaches themselves, and there are many: RNFs, VORNF, localizer based, NDB approach, circling approaches, sidestep approaches, and the only way that I'm going to fly those is actually on ATC with PilotEdge. So we're going to do practice approaches, and I will chat with Marcus or well, whatever controller is online at that time to fly those. So then the real excitement of IFR flying is starting. And once I did that, final stage is just doing my first actual IFR flights. That's all in preparation of those I ratings that are at the end, my examination for calling myself a proper real world, or coming as close to a real world instrument rating and flight simulator as I possibly can. Very, very exciting. Okay, guys, so that completes my stream for today. Thank you again for coming along, cheering me along, also challenging me with engine out procedures. I really appreciate it here on Sunday. I hope you learned something as well about IFR flying, perhaps also from landings and other stuff. As you know, that's always part of the spirit of the Uncertified Pilot, to learn something about flying. To me, the love of flying is not just about just flying from A to B, but to learn something about flying. And I think we succeeded in doing that today. Also, thanks for the many new follows, new faces here. Really appreciate it. Also, the host by Toto. Also by Virtual, 75 viewers. Thank you so much. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself today. Yeah, KLM, also thank you for your suggestions as well. Enjoy your weekend, guys. I will fly, I guess, on Monday and Tuesday, and then we're going to start with another IFR base flight. But that time I'm going to fly a NDB or ADF oriented holding pattern. It's going to be exciting. As always, happy flights and blue skies. Bye.
Palm Springs Tower, Skylane Hotel, 10 miles, 10 miles north of 43,000. Full stop at 13 left, if that's available.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, Palm Springs altimeters 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight up for 13.
That's available.
Remember, correction, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, next straight in runway 13 left, and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs plus 4658 is type PC12 slam clock, request clearance to Vegas as filed.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon. Unable to give you S file, I'll be forward standby. Plus 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas airport. VFI Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresso. Join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7,000. Expect flight level 2, 405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7. Squawk 6316. Plus 4658, read back is correct. Tango Mike, taxi to the ramp via Echo and on this frequency.
Taxiing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Delta Tango Mike.
Ontario Tower Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 227, Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left, traffic, left downwind runway 26, left before base.
Enter